And good morning, America, or should I say good morning, Florida, because that's where I'm sitting and that's what today's show is about. Folks, I know we call this the free state of Florida, and we have so much great stuff happening in our state. And for that, we are very blessed to be down here, which is why during COVID, so many of you from all over the country that were really feeling the pressure and the tyranny in your blue states, you fled down here, particularly a lot from the Northeast. But there's a lot happening down here that, frankly, is very, very troubling. And we're going to break into that today. Our show today is about treason. And frankly, we have serious issues of treason going on in Florida. My guest this afternoon is going to break this down. But while most politicians are really out there, and I'm backing Paul Renner for the governor's race down here in Florida, I'm going to put that out there. You guys have seen some of my posts. But while a lot of these other politicians are doing what they always do, they're out there kissing babies, chasing polls. There is one Senate candidate actually doing something far more dangerous. And I was talking to him about that before we went live. He's actually following the money. And what he's found isn't exactly just corruption. It is totally full-scale Chinese Communist Party influence operation buying of our government from the ground up. We're talking about Chris Gleason, an Army veteran, a data and distributed systems expert, and the man who built the Smurf Hunter tools that expose the massive money laundering through ActBlue and, wait for it, WinRed. You know that tool that the Republicans use to fundraise? Yeah. Well, his latest posts are lighting up X because a new Florida Senate poll just dropped and both leading candidates have taken, you ready for this? CCP cash funneled through shell corporations and smurfed donations. We're talking shell companies tied directly to the Chinese state-owned entities like Zhejiang Juhua. Apologies to the Chinese if I butchered that, but that's about the best you're going to get from me. We're talking about millions being laundered into Florida PACs and campaigns, DeSantis Network, Ashley Moody, and of course, President Trump's Byron Donalds. You name it. We're talking voting machines with CCP compromised components and full infiltration of the Republican Party of Florida, the RPOF. I have railed on these guys now for years. I even get phone calls sometimes from the president or chair of the RPOF asking me to take tweets down. Pretty funny, but I don't care because I'm talking about the truth here. This isn't foreign influence. This is actual foreign ownership. And Chris Gleason is calling it exactly what it is: treason. Today, we're going to walk through his evidence, the charts he's dropping, the FEC complaints he's filed, and why he's stepping up to run for U.S. Senate, because someone has to clean house before it's too late. Joining us now is Chris Gleason. Let me bring him in here right now. Chris, as always, great to see you, and thank you for being here. I want to kind of give people a little bit of a rundown because you are a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate here in Florida, an Army vet, tech whistleblower, and data expert who spent years exposing foreign money laundering in American elections. You built the Smurf Hunter tool. You've uncovered massive structured donation schemes and has already filed some FEC complaints, submitted to sworn statements to the FDLE law investigators, and brought national attention to CCP-linked shell companies operating in Florida. So I thank you for joining me today. And I kind of want to kick this off with this meeting you had with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the FDL meeting last week, because it sounds like they opened their kimono and showed you their cards with some of these FEC complaints you have on the CCP money throughout our wonderful state of free Florida.
Yeah, we sure did. It was last Friday, right around now. Last Friday, we met with them. Myself, Chuck Kelly, wonderful attorney here in Florida, does great stuff with election integrity. Jeff Bongiorno from Palm Beach County, and John Siamis. And so we met with the FDLE, and we recorded the entire meeting, as did they. We got video of it, and I'm going to be breaking it down and dropping it over the next coming days and weeks to show the extent of what is actually going on here in Florida.
So you say they opened their kimono, they showed their cards. Tell us a little bit about how the interaction began in the FDLE, because this, I think, is really earth-shattering news that people in Florida will be shocked to hear.
Sure. So they wanted to know about the evidence. They said, well, what evidence do you have? Where's your evidence? Where's this? Where's that? I said, well, all of this evidence is derived from the state and federal campaign finance data. It's derived from federal filings, federal court filings. It's derived from the filings by 4 U.S. Commerce Department administrations. All of the data and the evidence, it's irrefutable. It's absolutely irrefutable because it's the government's own self-certifying evidence. And so I've filed some FEC complaints about it. I also filed an Office of Foreign Asset Control petition, which was the most calling for the U.S. Treasury to seize all of the tainted money. And a lot of that tainted money was criminally laundered into Florida political campaigns.
So let's talk about this bombshell evidence. This is where you follow the CCP money chart. Break down the flow chart, which shows that a U.S. corporation, iGas, which is based in Tampa, has connections back to Zhejiang Juhua, this Chinese state-owned money trail, if you will. And let's break down the $3.8 million that has been laundered into 156 U.S. committees and PACs, and then specifically Florida, including the DeSantis network and Byron Donalds, because we're talking about a lot of money here. This is not insignificant.
No, these are rather large contributions. So one of the issues that the FDLE was asking about is, well, how are you sure that this money came from China? Well, with the way that the People's Republic of China, the way their corporate structures work, they have total control through all steps of the chain. So up top, you have a state-owned enterprise. You have the CCP. Then there's a state-owned enterprise. They own 100% of it. Then there's it was a regional energy company, Chinese party-owned. Then there's a publicly traded on the Chinese Stock Exchange company, which they own. The Chinese Communist Party owns 50% or more of it. Then that company then owns a percentage of iGas USA, iGas Holdings, so on and so forth. But the problem, right, for them ultimately is that 4 U.S. administrations, 4 commerce departments have made rulings, and this has all been litigated in federal court, by the way. Okay, all of it's been litigated. And the presumption is that the company is de facto controlled by the Chinese Communist government, unless the company can prove otherwise.
Have they?
And no, they haven't proved otherwise. And that's what the rulings of all the courts have found. And so you have a de facto controlled Chinese Communist government, right? Who is, along with their co-conspirators here in the United States, to include the CEO, Mr. Meng, of this organization and others, because there's a group of shell corporations that are all tied to Meng. And what made it worse was we figured out that that some of these shell corporations, they had filings with SAM.gov, okay, for federal contracts, federal things. So
Can I interrupt you real quick? If these shell corporations had filing with SAM.gov, don't they have to prove they're actually U.S. owned? How do you get a SAM.gov if you are not a U.S. owned corporation?
Well, they altered corporate filings. They altered filings to not or to have someone else on there other than the CEO. And one of the things that we figured, one of the things that we know based on the government's own data is that this iGas, Coolmaster, Pro LLC, I mean, there's a variety of them, right? And we know, based on the government's own data and evidence, so self-certifying, self-authenticating, that they took PPP money. They took 2 disbursements of Paycheck Protection funds, and they also got money from the EIDL program for COVID.
Explain to our audience what that is, EIDL.
EIDL was a program that allowed corporations to get a forgivable loan if they were impacted by COVID.
Right.
And so the problem here, right, is that you have in excess of $1 million in 2 PPP disbursements and this EIDL loan that were made to a company that was under de facto control by the Chinese Communist government. And so this is just one company, right? Or one vector of this. And there were some other instances that this occurred elsewhere in the United States. There was a company, I believe it was in Michigan, and they were a Chinese de facto controlled company. And they also got PPP money and I believe EIDL money as well. Now, that's the SBA and the federal government, they deployed PPP and EIDL to help American companies. And, because of the COVID bioweapon that China was responsible for. And so China has effectively, they used, so CCP money was used to seed fund iGas. They made a $10 million investment in iGas. So there's your seed capital, right? You've got de facto control by the Chinese communists. Then they make false filings with the SBA to defraud the federal government and our PPP and EIDL program, depriving of other American companies because they ended up running out of money at certain points, right? So how many other instances did this occur? But what makes this particularly egregious is that this iGas CCP network of companies, they used this PPP money, they used the EIDL money, they used de facto controlled Chinese communist funds, okay, run through shell corporations to buy our politicians. And they bought them. Yeah. They bought them all. They bought everybody who they needed to buy. They bought Ron DeSantis. They bought Ashley Moody. They bought Byron Donalds. They bought Laurel Lee. They bought Kathy Castor. They bought Tammy Baldwin. They bought Joe Biden. They bought, and this is just this one vector, right? This doesn't include the money that we know that they ran through the Smurfed identities, through WinRed, ActBlue, Democracy Engine, and all of this other stuff. So, because the level of sophistication of this smurfing operation was too large for just a bunch of people collecting, harvesting ballots, and going to the store and buying prepaid credit cards, and then making contributions. This is far more money, far more sophisticated. And when you look at the full scope of this, it contaminates the entire American political process in all the committees. So, and that's a huge, huge problem, right? Because it's not just, when you look at how the money flows, and by the way, once the money has been tainted and criminally laundered through the process, they're capturing the entire process. So they did this to Ashley Moody when she was the Attorney General. This was called out in 2023, 2024 during the primary against Ron DeSantis. There were reports on it. Tampa Bay Times, the Miami Herald, and they covered it somewhat, but they kind of dropped the story, and they, because I think they figured out that it wasn't just the Republicans, it was everybody. And they were probably told, hey, enough's enough on this. And so as I was doing things, as I was working on the smurfing into Ashley Moody's campaign, a friend of mine said, hey, Byron Donalds had taken some CCP money. And I'm like, what?
And how did they know that?
Because he remembered the article about it in the Miami Herald. And so I'm like, well, let's see how deep this goes. And that was when we deployed Smurf Hunter on it. And that was when we found.
Just take a second and just explain, in case people are not familiar with smurfing or they've forgotten, explain how smurfing actually works and why it's criminal.
Sure.
What's the structure? Just sort of break it down a little bit for folks.
Sure. So smurfing is a technique in money laundering, and where you're structuring financial transactions to evade detection through various mechanisms, be it through suspicious activity reports that get filed with the banks, FEC, any kind of money laundering stuff at all. What they do is it was tied to, the term was initially coined in money laundering tied to drug cartels. What they did is they had these little old ladies crossing the border, and they all had dyed hair, and and they had the blue hair. So they were the blue-haired, dyed little old ladies, and the cartel guys were like, who are these people? What is this? Oh, those are the Smurfs. Those are the people who take the money across the border for us. And so that term, that's how it was coined. That's how it became common. So a Smurf or straw donor, with regards to FEC contributions, a straw donor is when you're making contributions in the name of another. One of the big and famous Smurf Smurf prosecutions was when Dinesh D'Souza made campaign contributions in the names of a couple of people who worked for him.
Right.
And there was two transactions, right? And the DOJ prosecuted him over it, and he had to go to weekend jail over this. And he made a whole movie about it, right?
Right.
Hillary's America. Well, what we have here is orders of magnitude that are completely unbelievable, that nobody would even imagine could have been occurring had all of the fraud detection mechanisms been disabled. So you have complicit banks, you have complicit financial institutions, you have Wells Fargo, you have Bank of America, you have Chase, you have MasterCard, you have Visa, you have all of these campaign consultants, you have the FEC, you have ActBlue, you have WinRed, you have the replacement for ActBlue. That's called Democracy Engine. It was started by Jonathan Zucker, who had a big role over at ActBlue. And so this is, we've like I said, we've mapped the network. We understand what's going on. There's no escaping this right now. I mean, we have Smurf Hunter. We have a variety of indicators. Probably we're up around 900 or so now that we have used to detect smurfing. And it was funny. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they're like, well, how do you know this isn't just waterfall contributions? And I just laugh, and I'm like, no, because if this was all based on automatic recurring donations, it would not be going on the way this does, and it wouldn't happen. I mean, a lot of these identities, these people don't even know that their identities are being used.
Right. So basically what they're doing is they're taking basically large, illegal or foreign, I guess, source sums of thousands of money, and they're breaking it down to thousands of tiny little like micro donations. I think most of these are usually under $200, hopefully hoping to avoid, I guess, the FEC detection. But
Yeah.
like you said, they use these straw donors or people they don't even know, stolen identities. They grab them off voter rolls. And I mean, you could probably give a dissertation on voter rolls and make a college course about how corrupt our voter rolls are everywhere, Florida too. And they
Yeah.
have these very coordinated little batches of drop donations. They do them at ActBlue and WinRed. So the Republicans, your stuff doesn't, you think your stuff doesn't stink? It totally stinks. The Republican
Yeah.
Party is worse probably than the Democrats because they pretend everything's rosy. At least the Dems just rip the mask off and show you who they are. I mean, it's true, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is, and now we're getting this CCP money in, and make no bones about it. The CCP, I mean, they've been busting these bot farms all over the place, just literally littering our social media to get into our head, to get us to get off the, stay out, get out of our lane and go and fight some battle that's completely irrelevant. And we're not paying attention to our eye on the prize, which is getting someone like you in the Senate. We need a real strong America First voice in there that will break down this corruption, expose it, and then force the DOJ to do their job and end this nightmare. But, we can't even get the Senate or the Congress to force the DOJ to do anything.
Well, this actually kind of works out for us.
Okay.
So there's a couple of vectors here. So I filed my counterpart, Peter Bernagher up in Wisconsin.
Love Peter.
Peter files all the complaints. I brought him in on this years ago, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And but he's been doing a great job exposing things up there. He was the first to file some of the smurfing complaints, and so I filed a pile of them. I filed just last month. I filed probably an aggregate of about $7 billion in FEC complaints.
What do you think the total aggregate across this total smurfing universe across all parties exceeds by now? What do you think that number looks like? Do you have any idea?
Well, with FEC, you're limited to 5 years. But if you go back under RICO and civil RICO, you get to go back to the very beginning. And we have it mapped to the very beginning. And the very beginning, it began with nonprofit fraud in 2001. And then 2001. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And then we went from there into 2003, 2004 with the creation of ActBlue. Mm-hmm. And that was when this part of the scheme, because they had to, when Bill Clinton, his re-election campaign, right, in like 96, the Clinton-Gore campaign, that was financed ostensibly by China, the Chinese communists.
Right.
And that was the original Chinagate. And in exchange, right, for those campaign finance contributions, China wanted stuff. And what they wanted was GPS technology. They wanted supercomputing technology. They didn't just want us to put Walmarts in China, okay? And that was the whole thing with companies, American companies started to leave America to go to China, and then China would retain majority ownership of the companies. And then the money in China had to remain in China. There's a lot of stuff with this, right? Mm-hmm. So as part of this, there was an organization trying to get everybody to move on from the story, right? From the impeachment hearings, from the CCP money, right? And that was an organization called Move On, and moveon.org.
Told you they absolutely rip the mask off. They telling you who they are. Believe them. Yeah.
And so you had these operatives, and you had the guy who ran digital for AFL-CIO, who now runs the Action Network, which is the big new and improved smurfing tool that has been deployed over time and scaled. Mm-hmm. And you have ActBlue. You've had the mass exodus from there. And you had Zucker standing up Democracy Engine. And then the Republicans, see, this is the thing about the Republicans, right? They're always late to the game with technology, Okay. But once they get it, and then they go full bore.
Right.
And that's what happened with WinRed.
So I want to talk about this because this, frankly, what we're talking about, what you've exposed is treason when you're taking foreign influence money. And let's face it, Brad Parscale is involved in foreign influence operations himself with Project 545 through Clock Tower X, taking money from Israel, trying to influence people here. We know that influence operations are happening all the time, but when you're filing FARAs over this and just basically saying, yeah, this is what we're doing, you have to wonder, what's the point of filing a FARA if we know this influence operation is to take our eye off making America great and worrying about another country? Same with the CCP. They're a little more subversive about it. They're not trying to tell us how great they are. They're just using us and distracting us with fighting with over other things and taking like you said, moving on away from the CCP while they continue to commit, chemical jihad with, the fentanyl coming in this country, et cetera, et cetera. So the treason we're talking about means that nobody is clean. Both Ashley Moody, as you just said, who's running for Senate, she's a Republican, Alex Vendman, right? Let's talk about him. Does anybody remember Alex Vendman? Remember what happened with Ukraine and the phone call and all this?
Treason twins.
The twins, exactly.
The treason twins.
Yeah. So you've got he and Ashley are sort of the two top de facto leading candidates right now. You're coming in and you're exposing all of this, and you want to actually fix it. They've taken CCP and corporate cash, and you're calling it straight up treason. So how do we, knowing that this is actually a direct hit on the DeSantis network and the Republican Party of Florida infiltration, who's destroying Republican executive committees all over the state. You're well aware of that. They're ripping leadership out that's been elected by their people and putting their own people in there, which is unbelievable. This proves that Florida is captured. The Florida politics is captured at every level. So what's the move here, Chris?
So lawfare, name and shame. And
do
so
we have
right
attorneys
now
that were going to risk their bar license over this? Because this is how attorneys lose their bar license. We're battling
that's right. They are.
Organization. Yeah.
So we have a pile of grassroots candidates here in Florida who are fighting this fight. We got Jeff Bongiorno over in Palm Beach County.
Oh yeah.
We got me. We got me over here. We got Peter Bernegger. Peter Bernegger, he does not have a law license at this point. And so we're waging lawfare. And, the lack of quorum at the FEC has created a very interesting vector. Okay. So there are only two chair people. There are only two chairs at the FEC. Both of them are Democrats. Okay. One is Darrah Lindenbaum, who played a sizable role in the smurfing operations in Georgia. And as her reward for helping get Georgia in the 2020, Joe Biden appointed her to the FEC. And so Darrah has a problem because I filed a very large FEC complaint against John Ossoff, and we have one percolating right now on Raphael Warnock and the DNC, the DSCC, ActBlue, and Darrah Lindenbaum has played a role there, right? So you have two people there. There's no quorum. They cannot make any rulings. And because they can't make any rulings on any of these FEC complaints, that only leaves one course of action at this point, and that's a private cause of action. And so Peter Bernegger, he's filed against the FEC for their failing to do their duties. He filed a lawsuit against the FEC, and Boasberg and the other judge just issued out some rulings. Peter's got to amend his filings and get those filed, which he is. There's a time clock, right? Once the clock starts ticking, you file the complaint. They have 120 days, and as the clock starts ticking, if there's no inaction, if there's only inaction, then there's private cause of action. First is against the FEC. And then when the FEC does nothing, then the private person can step in. Well, if Peter Bernegger can step in and prosecute the case as the AG would or should, well, guess what happens? When I get my 120 day expires, there won't be a court, they're not going to do what you're going to do. And then I get to do that. And then we get discovery and we get to prosecute this.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it's civil, right? It's a civil case.
Right.
The burden of proof is different than in criminal. And then we have
explain how the burden of proof is different
with the criminal, it's beyond any reasonable doubt, right?
Right.
It can't be, 1%. If you have 1% doubt, you have to acquit. That's, with civil, it's 51%. So it's more likely than not. Now, arguably, the evidence that we have put forth in all of these smurfing complaints, it's irrefutable because it's all self-certifying data. It's all self-certifying federal evidence, right? It's it's your own data, guys, not mine, it's yours. I'm just showing you what's going on here. And so that presents a huge, huge problem. One of the things in particular that we've done is we've put the treasurers, we've put the committees, we put the PACs all on notice. And we said, hey, guys, all of this money is illegal. All of this money is tainted. And so if you touch this money, if you spend this money, well, you just committed more felonies. You just committed more crimes. You just committed more FEC violations. And so now all the money, once it's tainted, it's tainted. And what we see across the board here is tainted money. You have money that we know that the people didn't make contributions. We have straw contributions. We have bad addresses. So when you look at ActBlue, we took all of the donors, for the 2025-2026 election cycle.
Right.
And then we checked their addresses. We checked them with NCOA, National Change of Address, and USPS deliverability. So there was when we ran this a month or so ago, there was something like, I think it was like 200 or 300 million contributions made into the ActBlue WinRed, the ActBlue network,
Right.
Run through a DNC, DSCC, yada, yada, yada. And what we found was there were about 3 million unique donors, allegedly unique donors. And then we took those donors and then we ran their addresses, right, against NCOA and USPS deliverability. There were 550,000 roughly addresses that were problematic where, this address isn't correct. They moved, it's no good, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of problems. However, there was about approximately 140,000 unique ones that were impossible. There's no record of this. There's no record of this person living at this address. So it's made up, it's manufactured. And you have all of these Smurf/straw donors with bad addresses.
Right.
Contributing. And they're contributing across all of the PACs. So you have these same donors donating ActBlue, MoveOn.org, Progressive Turnout Project, Vote Vets. Pick one. Pick a Soros-connected, pick a Democrat-connected super PAC, dark money PAC, into the candidate committees. And so they're all of this money. You got like a 90% taint contamination rate across all of these committees. So, one, who's the real funds behind it? Okay. Two, this is treason. This is actual factual treason. It's the subversion of our constitutional republic and state via unlawful means. And Florida has a treason statute.
That's right.
So you have, and we brought this up in the FDLE. meeting. I said, guys, this is treason under the Florida statute. And so you guys have to do something about it now. You're on notice, because if you don't do something about it, guys, this is misprision of treason.
That's
and
right.
Misprision of felony. And oh, by the way, well, where's the evidence? Well, I tell you what, guys, you need to go and approach your boss, the director of the FDLE, because he's been copied on years of these emails where we've been exposing all of this.
That's
to
right.
include Ashley Moody's office when she was AG, Court Byrd. And, so as we were discussing things, they said, well, gee, if this is going on all of the counties here in Florida, which we know it as, right? This is going to have to go to the statewide prosecutor. I'm like, oh, the statewide prosecutor? You mean Brad McVeigh, who was also connected to all of this, who changed his email settings so that he couldn't get inbound emails anymore? That Brad McVeigh?
Oh my God.
And I mean,
Chris, here's the $64,000 question that probably, not many people will ask, but I'm that gal, so I'm going to ask it. Why in God's green earth are we giving these people any authority whatsoever? They're not lawfully in these positions. They've been selected. They've been taking treasonous money. And yet we continue to pay homage and take pictures with them like, oh, what are we doing? Like, when do the people wake up and realize this is a sham show? That this is not real government. They're a fake government. They're not respected by us. They're not respectful to us. They're certainly not doing what we ask. And they're taking foreign money, which means they don't even work for us. At what point did we get to penetrate that corporate shell and hold them personally liable and responsible for the treason that they're doing?
Well, we got to file lawsuits. People have got to use their rights. So here in Florida, do we
all mass stop paying property tax? Like, everybody don't pay property tax this year. I mean, Paul Renner is trying to get the state legislator just to roll it back to 2023 so he could go in and become governor and then work with him like when he was speaker to hopefully, eliminate it. It's just like we have this massive, what do we have? How many billions of dollars do we have in Florida surplus right now?
The entire system is broken. It is broken. And so in Florida, we have the grand jury statute, tied to election fraud. And I raised that in my 2024 election. The corrupt judge blocked it unlawfully, and the state attorney blocked it unlawfully, which we've now exposed it. We now have it. We learned lessons. And now, as a federal candidate who's running in all 67 counties,
right,
I have standing. And so we're going to be running the entire campaign on election integrity and on transparency and on accountability. Okay. And so we're going to have people who are aggrieved, who are qualified electors, qualified voters, across Florida, joining me in all 67 counties, demanding a grand jury investigation into the election fraud, into this treason, because only a grand jury can investigate this stuff.
That's right.
Only a grand jury can investigate the treason.
That's right.
But the problem, right, is that the state attorneys, it's a captured system. So like in Pinellas County, we have Bruce Bartlett. And Bruce Bartlett, he's got a whole lot of problems right now. And I mean, we filed complaints against him. I filed a civil rights complaint against Bruce Bartlett and the Pinellas County election fraud cartel with the DOJ, with Harmeet Dillon's DOJ in the Civil Rights Division. And, ultimately, we're going to have to hold her accountable too, and make sure that she does what she's supposed to do.
Listen, you've had good people like Mac Warner resign from the DOJ Civil Rights Division because it's wasting his time to be there. He can do more as a private attorney on the outside. When you see good people bailing, Thank God Ed Martin is still there. I pray every day for that man. He's such a good soul. He's a good man. He's really trying to make a difference. And he's been, sidelined by Todd Blanche, who's been running
Yeah.
the DOJ the whole time because Pam Bondi was busy with blowouts, makeup, and Fox News appearances. She was too busy to do anything that would be of consequence for the American people that were promised. We were going to see accountability with the federal government at least.
Well,
So
we knew, I mean, we did know, right? We knew, I told, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but I met Pam Bondi prior to my election in 2024
okay.
at the Hillsborough County RPOF meeting. Lara Trump was there, Evan Power was there, Pam Bondi was there. And I went over to Pam Bondi and I explained to her about the illegally requested vote by mail ballots and all of the fraud that we had identified in Pinellas County.
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands. And so I went to her about that. She's like, see that guy over there? You need to go talk to him. And he's the guy who's running the election day operations for the RNC here in Florida. And he'll go talk to him. So I went over to there, talked to him, got his card. And when I was watching the election get stolen, and I was copying the U.S. attorney, Roger Sandberg, when I was copying everybody on what was going on, when we were seeing the massive fraud with the vote by mail ballots in my race, when we were filing all of this stuff, okay, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. And so, okay, that's fine. But once she got in, she had a traceable duty. She had a traceable duty to do something. And what I was told by Bernegger was that based on his conversations with people within the DOJ, that they were not going to touch Florida election fraud with a 10-foot pole. And I said, oh, really? Well, I kind of have a problem with that. Yeah. And so do all of my friends, all the people who vote in Florida, because ultimately, right, that was arguably the largest issue on the ballot in 2024. But magically, none of the America First, none of the real America First candidates in Florida, okay, none of us won our primary. Then they crashed the system on primary night, and then none of them won in November. People like Billy Christensen and Hillsborough County and Jeff Buongiorno over in Palm Beach County. So they're caught. So we documented it, right? We did a great job of that. And I'll pat myself on the back, and I'll pat all of the back of all of the amazing people who door knocked with us and filled out requests for grand jury investigations, who put their heart and soul into trying to get us all elected. Yeah. And so we've documented it all. We know what's going on. We knew that an executive order was going to come. Okay. And in anticipation of that, we proceeded along anyways, doing our thing. And so now you've got a federal candidate. You have several federal candidates here in Florida now. You've got a governor candidate in Florida now. You've got Rachel Rodriguez, who's an attorney who understands election fraud very well. She has standing also in the state, in the state race. You've got Buongiorno, who's running for Congress over in Palm Beach County. He's got multiple lawsuits filed. I've got multiple lawsuits filed. I mean, I've fought mine all the way to the Supreme Court in Florida, and they've loaded the bench with compromised judges. Of
course.
And in the circuit court on my case.
Compromised because the governor picks the JQC, the Judicial Quality Commission, and then the Florida State Bar is compromised. And Frank, I think it was it Blaze Ignolia that wants to pick pick lawyers to file federal lawsuits that are not Florida State barred.
Yeah.
He's
so Blaze
outside the state.
So here's a fun fact about Blaze. I also filed a very large campaign finance complaint against Ron DeSantis and Blaze Ingoglia and the money.
Go ahead.
And the money laundering system that Blaze oversaw tied to DeSantis's state and federal campaigns. So right now, we have a guy who orchestrated a criminal money laundering operation into his own campaign and DeSantis's state campaign and federal campaigns as Florida's CFO, Mr. Doge. Now, none of these Doge audits that he claims that they've done, none of them have any sort of accounting practice or any sort of auditable trail. They just pick stuff.
So he's just basically saying, I Doge this, and this is what is he making stuff up? There's no audit trail?
He won't provide any. He won't provide any. And so are you really there's no audit trail. People are asking him for it because you can't audit forensically the stuff that he's claiming to do. I mean, so John Siamis, he ran for state senate. He's my campaign treasurer. He was a forensic auditor for DOD. And so he would do forensic audits of contracts. And he's like, there's no way that they're knocking these things out as fast as they are. It's impossible. He's like, it would take far longer for them. So there's no way. So we started asking, right? Where can we find? And then other people with accounting degrees are like, yeah, hey, where is this? Where's the audit trail? Where's the auditable records? If you don't have an auditable record, you have nothing.
An auditor should provide an audit trail. I agree. I mean, that's standard operating procedure if you're an auditor, right? How did you get to this number right here if you can't show the math before it, right? And we're not getting the basic functionality of that. And it's really a shame because Blaze has done a phenomenal, should we say, campaign on promoting himself as the good guy. He's gone.
Well, there's what he says and what he does. It's kind of like Ron DeSantis, right? I mean, Ron DeSantis had us all hoodwinked for a very long period of time. And it wasn't until, because I had this conversation with Stone back in 21. Roger Stone. And he's like, no, he's a bad guy. And he's like, you should take a look at this. And he's like, what? And there was the million plus zombie identities on the voter rolls. Mm-hmm. And then we started peeling the onion on a lot of this stuff and bringing it to the attention of Ron DeSantis and his Secretary of State and the General Counsel for the, and the more and more that we dug, the more and more that we exposed. I mean, we ended up doing it was me, Raj Dorsami, and my hero, Chris Quackenbush from Lee County, who discovered the blank ballot anomaly. We had a face-to-face meeting with Korberg. And as an after action, Secretary of State Korberg, where we called him to the carpet on a bunch of stuff. And he walks in and he was very like, the problem with you keyboard warriors is that you don't bring us any kind of prosecutable evidence, and you don't do this and you don't do that. And I said, well, Cord, I'm going to make your life infinitely better right now. I'm going to simplify all of your problems, and you're going to be a hero, and DeSantis is going to be a hero, and you guys are going to go down as saving the republic. Here's what you need to do. Pick up the phone right now and call Maria Matthews at the Florida Division of Elections. Mm-hmm. And you tell Maria to tell every single supervisor of election in every single county that they are to take all of the auditable records, all of the logs, all of the data for all of the elections, and put them into a folder on their website. And that's all you got to do. And all of your problems with us pesky kids will go away. Well, that's never going to happen. What?
Why? It's called
Sue me.
transparency. You
Yeah.
work for us. Hello.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
did they forget that?
So we did it. I did an email follow up the next day, and I recapped our conversation, and I copied a bunch of people on it to include the Inspector General for the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and a whole lot of other people. And what ended up happening was that the Chief Inspector General for the state of Florida reached back out to me, and they said, we're going to open an investigation into this. And I thought, oh, wow, this is great. DeSantis didn't know he had a bad actor working for him. And then the Chief Inspector General's office sent me an email saying, hey, we're going to refer to this to the Chief Inspector General that answers to Cord Bird in the Secretary of State's office to investigate. I'm like, wait a minute, guys. In an email, I replied back, so let me get this straight. You're going to refer my waste, fraud, and abuse complaint to the Inspector General who answers directly to Cord Bird, and you're going to also refer this because I made criminal allegations against Ashley Moody about her using illegal undue influence to silence a federal candidate about election fraud in their own election. That was Laura Loomer in the Villages, right?
Yep.
And so the Chief Inspector General replies back in an email and in a letter saying, we're going to do whatever we want because we're the Inspector General. And it doesn't matter what you think. And it doesn't matter. We're going to do whatever we want. And you know what? Nobody ever got back to me.
Oh, gee, I'm so surprised. Listen. I still have FOIAs out. I've got one that's just a public records request in Martin County, where I live, that still hasn't responded. I'm investigating my HOA and the malfeasance. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the property manager we just found on Facebook was embezzling money from HOAs. So it's like, anyway, whatever. It's just the same crap, different day. You've got some people here that are truth prevails. I see you putting stuff in here. We've got some comments in here, some folks that are calling you a hero, saying some great stuff about you. Just so you know, you're getting some, great reviews in here in the comments, but honestly, and people posting about more fraud going on in the sheriff's departments, and it's everywhere, guys. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad.
Can we talk about Carmine Marceno?
Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he's connected back to Pam Bondi, all the money trail there, Susie Wiles, the whole shooting match, as they say.
Yeah. So right now here's where things really get spicy, right?
Okay.
Right now there is a federal trial, the Rivera trial. The DOJ went after this former congressman down in down south. He used to be Marco Rubio's roommate at one point, and he was tied to Ballard Partners, tied to Venezuela, non-FARA registration. And Marco Rubio had to go and testify about a week or two ago.
Didn't Susie Wiles, or did she not have to testify?
No, she got a hall pass.
Yeah. While you're talking about her hall pass, I'll just put that up there, but keep going.
So Susie Wiles got a hall pass, and because she's going to be busy and it's going to disrupt the administration, and we're at war, and it's very, it's bad. But she's not going to be able to escape it forever. Yeah. And moreover, though, right, the same legal strategy that is tied to this Venezuelan influence operation, right, tied to Ballard Partners, is also tied to the Chinese Communist Company that Pam Bondi also worked for, right, and is also linked with this. And the funny thing about this was there was a false FARA filing filed with the iGas, with this iGas company in Tampa. And then when the media got wind of it,
can you explain what is a false FARA filing? Is it was fraud or false? Like, what does that mean?
They made false entries in a FARA filing, and for lobbying in the lobbying disclosure. And so the first the first lobbyist disclosure that was filed by Ballard related to iGas left out the fact that the Chinese communists were in de facto control of this company. And then after the news hit, then they filed an amended one, okay? And so what was really interesting is last week, Brian Ballard of Ballard Partners had to testify. And when he testified, he talked about the seriousness under FARA and the seriousness. And I think the quote was, once you see FARA, it's full stop, do not pass go, do not, And so that tells us that Brian Ballard, right, is a very sophisticated lobbyist, and he knows the importance of the FARA registration. And so I have to ask, okay, if the companies are de facto controlled by the Chinese communists, right? U.S., I mean, this is, court rulings, this is four administrations. Well, why did they choose to do a LDA filing instead of a FARA filing? Okay, because there's two different types. And subsequently, their iGas dropped Ballard Partners and then engaged two other subsequent lobbying firms. And those other lobbying firms, straight out of the gate, they said, yeah, there's foreign ownership of this, but they also didn't reference de facto Chinese control. And so everybody's got to be asking here, was that essentially part of a cover-up? And moreover, why did Pam Bondi gut the FARA department when she got in? And I mean, these are questions that people really need to be asking, right? And so Brian Ballard, he should know all of this. He's a sophisticated, I mean, he used to be, he held leadership positions with the RPOF. And he got, he left in disgrace after a trip to the Bahamas with a bunch of escorts.
You know about his sister, right?
No. What about his sister?
Mary McCardle. She was a Palm Beach County commissioner. She was arrested also.
Oh.
She did time in the clink for financial impropriety, shall we say?
Well, I mean, if we actually had a functional Justice Department and a functional court system, Brian Ballard would probably be behind bars as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why Pam Bondi was the AG, I'm guessing, to make sure that didn't happen and that sphere of influence, and that the big pharma, the foreign pharmaceutical companies like Bayer, Monsanto, and others that want to keep spraying these chemicals, but don't say anything bad because we're going to litigate you into the ground like they tried to do here in Florida. And now they've just, put that through an executive order, which is like mind blowing to me. You have to wonder, is President Trump even paying attention to any of the stuff he's signing or anything that's really happening? Because what's going on around him is so toxic and so evil. And then what you've exposed, and you didn't just expose this year. You actually started, I guess it was at one point you were up in Ohio. You got involved with some folks up there. Here's one of your Substacks that you put out, which I think was, if people aren't reading your Substack, they should be, because this is another mind-blowing piece of information that you put out, the CCP's two-front war on American sovereignty from Midwest down to Florida. And this, you lay it out right here in this Substack. I mean, it's just to me that nobody cares to do anything about this, Chris, is what has me beyond frustrated. And lawsuits take a long time. How long is this litigation, do you think, going to take before you actually move the needle back to where it needs to be?
Well, one of the things that we're moving for is the immediate seizure of these funds.
Good.
Because ultimately it's illegal for them to use it. Yeah. And it falls, right into the lap of the Treasury Secretary. So Scott Bessent, as a Treasury Secretary, he's got to step up and do the right thing here. Because, I mean, China has been waging unrestricted warfare in a variety of ways, in an evolving variety of ways, since 1998, when they first published their book, Unrestricted Warfare. They've subsequently published numerous doctrine updates where, I've done quite a bit of research into this pre-COVID, pre-coup, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, and we knew that this. I mean, the CCP needed to get Trump out in 2020 because he had started cracking down hard on them.
Right.
And China has a demographic problem, and they need to be able to maintain certain levels of growth. Otherwise, Xi is going to have civil unrest within China, and so they are, they're buying our politicians on all sides, using our own money in some cases. So the real question, right, is how much COVID relief funds were criminally laundered into these campaigns? How much, I mean, how ironic, right? You get all of these grants, okay, into these nonprofits like the Center for Internet Security, right? That evil group that maintained the internet blacklist that attacked people like me and my friends. They targeted us in the lead up to the 2018 midterms because we held massive sway online with the undecided voter. I mean, they attacked me and 400 of my friends, and we had 100. Jason Fick, he was part of all of that too. And we've been fighting this fight for a long time. Yeah. Because this was an intel op, right? Yep. It tied to Peter Thiel, tied to Mark Zuckerberg, LifeLog, DARPA, and
Michael McKibben. They stole his software. The Clinton IP attorney. You may know that story if you've ever spoken to him. I mean, that's a crazy story too. Every social media platform comes from that IP. He's got a $24 trillion Miller Act lien sitting on the president's desk since 2014, right?
No, I didn't.
Yep. He's got a lien on the feds, on the federal government for the IP theft. He's owed, he should be getting some sort of revenue share out of this.
Yeah. So, well, unfortunately, did you know this? That we have a serious problem with vacancies at the IG level throughout the United States government.
The Inspector General level?
So there's no IG for DOJ. There's no IG for the NSA. There's no IG for Treasury.
They have acting. They're all acting.
No, there's nobody there. It's vacant right now. My understanding is vacant. They're vacant. I mean, because the appointments, the temporary and interim appointments, they expire, okay, after a certain period of time.
Okay.
But my understanding is that there is a very large amount of IGs that are not in place. And so think about this for a minute. You have DOJ, NSA, and Treasury. Okay, those are three critical pillars, okay, for a nation to have oversight in. And there's no IG. Okay,
well, the U.S. Treasury is about the only thing in that sentence you said that actually belongs. And is, would be even considered appropriate, according to what our founding father said. The DOJ, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's up to us. Nobody's coming to save us.
Exactly.
And, the white hats are not in control.
Nope, they're not.
We're the white hats. Every voter.
We are the white hats you're looking for. We are.
Yes. So everybody, we have to make the primary here in Florida too big to rig because only 20% of
Gilbert Johnson disagrees with the white hats, by the way. He thinks they are in place. They're just not published. Well, at what point, Gilbert, are they waiting to come out and show us their face and do something? Because from where I'm sitting, we are worse off today than we were in 2016. This is not better. That's just my opinion. And I'm living in Florida and I'm watching my state go up in smoke. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
Chris.
I'm a white hat. I mean, arguably, I am a white hat. I mean, arguably, Peter Bernegger is a white hat. Arguably, Bongiorno is a white hat. Arguably, John Siamis is a white hat. Arguably, you're a white hat. Yeah. Arguably, Todd Wood is a white hat. Right. Arguably, Emma Robinson is a white hat.
Right. We just don't wear the hat, but I should probably get one. So
Goodness.
yeah, this is very disturbing. But again, people like you are on the job. You have identified this. You've identified the authorities that needed to know. You've alerted the authorities. Now they are literally misprisioning of felonies and of treason.
Misprision of treason. Yeah,
Yeah,
misprision of
yeah,
treason.
yeah.
So, I mean, we're fighting the good fight. We're doing everything that we can.
So
I mean,
if we have all this and you're going to litigate this, I guess that I mean, you're not an attorney, so you're going to litigate this pro se yourself. You understand the law. You can articulate your position in court. This is going to go all the way to the highest court in the land in some instances, I would imagine. And my concern is, what happens when we find out that the highest court in the land either doesn't want to hear the case, like in Jason Fick's case, right?
Yeah.
They just wouldn't hear it. It couldn't get it docketed, or they just say, no, you're wrong. And they, then what do we do?
Their own data and their own records say I'm right, and it's irrefutable.
Okay, but that's true. But again, it's sort of like I've watched this in family courts and in guardianship cases. The judges will just either, like in Tina Peters' case, they will not allow the evidence to come into court. She had no she couldn't even defend herself with exculpatory evidence. This is what I mean. They're just so corrupt at so many levels. I guess this is a dire question, but where do the people go from here? Do we really just have to literally stand up, gulch a parallel government and ignore the corrupt corporate government in control that they, and just stop giving them the authority? I really think we are at that point where we have to stop recognizing them as some kind of authority. I mean, we've had IRS whistleblowers come forward, Chris, and explain you do not have on any obligation to contract in with an adhesion contract and opt into contract with the federal government, IRS, to pay taxes. You do not have to file a 1040. There is no law that says you have to do that. And that's not my words.
You tell that to Ed Brown and Elaine Brown up in New Hampshire. And, they've been, I don't even know if they're still alive, but that was a big thing back in the Ron Paul days. And Aaron Russo had done a whole documentary on that. Yeah. From freedom to fascism. That was what it was. Movie. Yeah.
I talk to Joe Bannister pretty regularly, an IRS whistleblower. Sherry Peel Jackson. I mean, there's lots of whistleblowers that worked in the system that did the homework. And they're like, this is, first of all, it's totally corrupt. The corporate Title 20, the title system is ridiculous. That's an overlay on top of that's what's smothering this boy right here is U.S. codes.
So we're at the 250-year mark. And, right after that, we have, for Florida, we have our primary election. So, I know a lot of people are not happy. I know that we know every which way that they're going to try to rig it and steal it from us. Okay. The primary, we know, absolutely. But we have to get everybody out. We have to get everybody out in the primary. Okay, to vote in grassroots candidates, to vote in candidates that didn't take the CCP money. Because if we don't do that, if people are so apathetic that they can't get off the couch and off the pickleball court and off the golf course and go and vote in the primary election, okay, we've got some big problems.
We do have.
So
in Florida, we're a little bit of a disadvantage. Our primary is in August, which is right when the kids are coming back to school, and mom and dad and the families that went up to Cape Cod or New Hampshire or Maine or whatever for the summer are coming back. They haven't paid attention to the Florida politics all summer long, and people are getting ready to eject here in another month or so to go up north. They're going to come back. Kids got to go to school, and we have a primary. So we need to get people's attention now, Chris. I'm going to give you the floor. I want you to give them your elevator pitch as to why you need to be elected in this seat, and not Ashley Moody, for God's sakes, and definitely not Alex Vindman, for heaven's sake.
So, folks, we need you to come out and vote. Okay. It's tough. The economy is not great. We have some major problems. Okay. Here in Florida. Now, what I can tell you is this: every single kitchen table issue that you have, most people are typically 1 to 2 issue voters. Okay. Every single gripe, every single thing, or arguably right now, affordability and accountability are on the table. This is the most important thing, right? Because if you don't have real elections and you have selections and you have foreign money and special interests buying and selecting these elected officials, okay, you have them doing that, the will of the people, your will, what matters most to you, isn't on the agenda. And we need it to be on the agenda. And so what we need you to do is to come out, all right? I don't expect you to donate any money to me. It's tough. I get it. I'm trying my best to seize and freeze all their money, okay? And we run a true grassroots guerrilla campaign here, all right? There's plenty of non-establishment primary challengers in pretty much all the races in Florida. You got to come out and you vote for the non-incumbent. Vote for the people who didn't take the Chinese communist money. But you got to get people, you got to get your neighbor, okay? You got to get 3, 4, 5. I'm asking people at campaign events, get 10 people, and you all hold each other accountable, and you all come out and vote in the primary, because in August of 2024, about only 20%, somewhere 17 to 20 something percent of people actually voted in the primary. And we need to make the primary too big to rig, okay? We have to do that. And I, as a candidate, I'm standing in all 67 counties. And if you're not happy, okay, with the rigged system, if you're not happy with what we've seen and what you've seen, okay, you have the right to request a grand jury investigation in your county into election fraud. And so it's us. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to do this. And if we don't do it, well, God help America, and God help Florida, because the Chinese communists are in control. The Uniparty is in control. And, we're not, the Republic isn't going to stand any longer. So, we need people. We need you to come out. We need people to knock on doors. We need people to talk to people. We need people. It's up to us.
Do you have any way for people to organize? I know your website, and we'll put that up again, but do you have any way for people to organize if they're setting up signal groups or WhatsApp groups, or what are they doing so that if you want to get door knockers in all the 67 counties, how they can coordinate with one another?
We have a spot on our website on voteforgleason.com, okay. And you can sign up there and join the fight. We've got fantastic grassroots America First groups that meet all across the state. A lot of them, they began their nexus, a lot of them with Defend Florida. A lot of them started out as Republican executive committee clubs, little groups. Mm-hmm. You got to look into these little groups, search locally. And, these little local groups that meet, once a month, we need to get you into those groups, get you engaged. That's because, right. If things don't go well, you're going to want to have a good network of people that are grassroots and around you, and you'll know who the people you can trust are. You're going to know.
Well, let's see. Irascible Infantryman says, who should I vote for in November? Well, this guy right here, Chris Gleason. Put everything behind Chris Gleason. Chris Gleason for U.S. Senate here in Florida.
Stop the treason.
Right. Vote for Gleason. Stop the treason. I love that.
Vote for Gleason. Stop the treason. Because both of them are committing treason on the Senate side here. And if you're taking Chinese communist money, Chinese communist derived, Chinese communist controlled money from Chinese communist controlled shell corporations and straw donors, that is treason. And the Florida treason statute specifically was established to deal with communist infiltration into government.
Can we answer this question for Kashif Hussein? He says, hi,
sure.
Ann, I just have a question. Is the delay in appointing an inspector general a procedural failure or deliberate avoidance of oversight? I think I know what the answer is, but I'll let you take that one.
I would say deliberate avoidance of oversight across multiple administrations.
Yeah.
The Uniparty does not want oversight. The Purple
They don't
Party.
want oversight. They don't want to fix anything either. They want to continually have a perpetual problem to, quote, raise money on and fight for.
And pit the people against each other, pit voters against each other, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's what they do. I mean, here's a really important thing that everybody really needs to understand, right?
Hmm.
During my campaign, my primary was the general. And as we're out door knocking, I would go to Republican home and Democrat home. And I would talk to the people, the voters there. And my 12-year-old daughter would sit there and she would do her little polling. And the poll essentially was this. She's like, do you believe that there should be zero cheating in the election? And she did that to everybody. And invariably, most everybody said, yeah, there should be no cheating. And my daughter would say, well, you're in good company. 93% of all Americans believe there should be no cheating. And then people would always ask, they would say, well, who's the other 7%? And so now we know who the other 7% are. They're the people who are holding office, the people who installed them, who selected them, and are benefiting from the rigged elections.
That's right.
And so, I mean, I've worked in this battle. I've worked with some Democrats, and exposing some of this stuff. And I talk to them. I call Smurfs on the phone, and I'll talk to them. And they'll be like, I really just wish America could go back to the way things were on September 12th, 2001. And I go, I agree with you.
That's right. That's when we were so united, but we were united around a false principle, weapons of mass destruction, And again, I sometimes I wish we had an asteroid heading at the planet, because then the whole planet would set everything aside and go, oh crap, they're going to wipe us out. This thing is coming at us. We're going to figure out how to get it off. I mean, maybe since we've already done the Hollywood movie on how to move asteroids, I'm pretty sure they probably know how to move an asteroid. So we might as well have something to fight for together because we're so divided. I just want to give a shout out, by the way, Chris, you have a Signal group. I'm in it. Vote Chris Gleason for U.S. Senate. There's some incredible people on there. Billy Christensen, Mary Kelly, Kathy Chamberlain, Trent Wayman. Let's see who else is in there. Calvin B. Just some great people. Mike Cartwright. You have awesome people that are, working right now. Jess, Key West Jess, she's in here. And you know what? It's interesting because we all have a little bit different perspective on who we want to see as governor. But that doesn't cause us to be divisive and hate on each other and backstab each other. We're like, no, this is what I think. And we are actually working together, I think, cohesively to get behind a Senate candidate that really needs to be in the Senate, because it's so corrupt in DC. It's absolutely corrupt. But Florida, unfortunately, you've exposed just how much money laundering and treason is going on, thanks to the Chinese Communist Party and the people that will look the other way. Clearly, they don't want inspector generals in any department anywhere doing a deep dive. But I think it's also been proven by some folks at the OIG's office, and all of them are corrupt, and they're working together to intentionally look the other way. And I've proven that in some of the work I've done against investigating the IRS with some very good people that are going toe to toe with these demons, trying to steal people's homes, falsifying 1040A forms that were never filed, all kinds of crazy stuff that this government's doing to steal from us. And we have got to, we've just got to put our foot down. And I want to say to the Peterson Dean, sorry about that. I know I just butchered your name. Thank you for subscribing. That was really nice of you. Anyhow, Chris Gleason, amazing. I really appreciate your time today. I love the work you're doing. Count me in. I'm going to start a door knocking campaign for you over here in Martin County and hopefully get some people riled up. And who knows, maybe I'll even do some other things that I can't talk about right now. We'll have to keep that one under the hood for a little while, because I don't want to.
Well, we appreciate any help that you can give, and thank you for giving us a voice, because we are heavily censored.
Of course, of course, yeah. No, they're stealing. I've lost 2,500 followers on X, subscribers. They're just deleting stuff. Apparently I'm unfollowing people. So if I unfollow you, please let me know. I found out when I was talking to Roger Stone the other day that I unfollowed his account, which I didn't do. But X is unfollowing me from people's accounts, and they're unfollowing others from my account. They just don't want us talking to each other. That's really clear. So that's okay. It's here today, gone tomorrow. I don't live for social media. It's a tool. It's all a tool to help educate people. And if they take it away, you know what? I can go do other things.
Yeah.
We all can. So anyway, God bless you, Chris Gleason. Thank you for everything.
God bless you. Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm. Well. I got to tell you, his personal crusade and actions taken. This is a guy who's an Army veteran. He's a data expert turned into a whistleblower. He's filed multiple FEC complaints. We just went through all of this, his meetings with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He's even filed FEC complaints against Ashley Moody, who's also running as a competitor in the same race for U.S. Senate. He's got petitions, these sworn statements to the FDLE investigators. And his evidence comes from his public filings, from EPA docs, corporate ownership records. Look at his Substack. It's at immutable truth elections.substack. Immutable, IMM, immutable truth elections.substack.com. He's got some incredible forensic deep dives, and he's running for U.S. Senate because he wants to finish the job. He's going to take the fight from the data battlefield in the courtroom straight to the Capitol. He wants to pass real bans on foreign linked money, audit these machines. He wants to drain the swamp from the inside. And frankly, he's the only candidate that's not bought and paid for. I mean, look at this data right here. This is what I find is so shocking. Oops, put the wrong one up. Hang on a second. Here we go. And this is from what Chris has unearthed. This is 1.1 billion FEC records that has uncovered foreign influence pipeline running from the Chinese Communist Party to 156 American political committees, Republican and Democrat, totaling $3.8 million in documented contributions. That's just incredible. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And what it is treason. So please, if you all have the inclination, if you're in Florida, please go to his website, vote for Gleason, GLEASON.com, because he is now proven we have a national security threat. And this is our call to action. This is how the CCP is buying influence over policy, elections, and America's future. And voters, you guys have to demand full forensic audits. You have to get and demand immediate investigations and legislation to block these foreign shell corporations that are laundering all this money in. Common sense isn't common. And when did taking campaign contributions from de facto CCP-controlled shell corporations become an American value? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves, and get busy. Start a campaign team in your neighborhood, in your county, and pursue helping this gentleman get into the U.S. Senate. It's utterly critical. Every single race matters. It has a national impact. General Flynn says it all the time. Local action has a national impact. And this is definitely one of those local action races. We can't allow the CCP to take over America. They've been doing it through chemical jihad and killed hundreds of thousands of our Americans using fentanyl and these precursors that are manufactured or brought into Mexico and making fentanyl. It's just diabolical what's going on. Thank you so much for your time. As always, I appreciate you. You guys have a fantastic weekend. It is Friday. And I'm going to have dinner with my family tonight. Looking forward to that. Love you guys. Have a good night.